Whenever I read this, it blew my mind. 160% increase of heart attack, stroke, and death over the next 3 years.
I'll get McConaughey on you. Hey, listen, man. Don't pay the price without knowing the cost. All right.
Basically, since you're trying to make that thing where it can't be broken down, well, what's going to happen whenever you eat it into your gut? Because that is the sole purpose of what that food, it has to go into your gut, has to be broken down. And so now you've got all this garbage on the food that's preventing it from being broken down, and you're putting it into your gut when it's too late and people's been using it for 10 years.
Yeah.
Oh, well, liver cancer, kidney cancer, and oh, great, thanks.
Yeah. They've made their money. They've moved on.
Yeah.
Probably out of business. I'm the husband. I got a wife, 2 kids, 4 of us. Quattro. Okay? Listen.
I want to share with everybody, especially you, Joe, because I think it's going to blow your doors. You need to look into getting a tailored fitness program where you're monitoring these things and you're going in very, focused when you're going into the gym. Health is the same way. Health is not, you don't become a millionaire in your health overnight. Things have happened to you. It takes time to sort of break free or really start to change trajectories. Expect that and be okay with it. Just be somebody who's diligent, shows up every day and wakes up every day, wanting to make those good decisions for themselves and for their families. I'm just glad that you got to live in a world where you had the knowledge to make the decisions that are best for you and your family. Hey everybody, thanks for joining in to the Desolate Joe podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Adam Saucerman. I created this specific podcast series to be a relaxed and casual dialogue with our comedic and thoughtful co-host, Mr. Joe Williams, punctuated with relevant and lengthy dives into vital functional medicine concepts that can have a profound effect on your health and the health of your family. As always, feel free to check out our other podcast series and resources at www.desolatehealth.com, where we attempt to pursue and purvey the most relevant and cutting-edge health information in various forms to fulfill our mission of reconciliation of healthy living. Also, it is important for me to say that the content provided on this platform is for informational purposes only and should not be considered as medical advice or a substitute for professional care. I'm a licensed physician, but the information shared here does not establish a doctor-patient relationship. Always consult your healthcare provider or a qualified medical professional regarding any questions or decisions about your health or medical conditions. Do not delay seeking professional advice because of information you have read or viewed here. Now let's get to it. What is it?
Live, local, interactive with Adam Saucerman.
And Joe Williams.
Joe Williams.
Which I love. I want to lovingly call you now, Mr. Holistic Joe Williams. Mr. quotation marks,
Mr. Holistic. It's Mr. Holistic Hour with Joe Williams. What did I just say? I didn't say, never mind. Holistic, you know what I mean.
All right, everybody.
Okay.
Camera's hot, mic's hot. I have Joe Williams across the table from me for the Desolate Joe podcast. Super excited for this morning. I think that we have a lot of fun stuff to talk about, but I think that we are going to do our usual and just start in with some banter and hopefully end up with some useful topics for everybody.
Yeah, not any locker room banter. That was a popular phrase there for a little while with old Donnie T. I think he got in trouble for saying some things. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's stick to health.
Please. Anyway, so how you been feeling? Feeling good? Body's feeling good?
Feeling good. Now, the last couple of weeks, though, was a little rough with sort of a back injury, sort of a mysterious back injury from a back squat.
Yeah.
Or lack thereof. Wasn't a very good form. The running shoes didn't help when I had them on that day. I was planning on cardio that day, and I was like, let me shoot on over and do a little back squat. Let me do a few of them before I get on out of here.
Yeah.
And I should have just left the gym,
So this is great. I want to ask you, so did you do your cardio, like essentially full on cardio workout, and then you're like, hey, why don't we just go hit the squat rack?
I did it backwards, according to studies.
The reason why, because I've hurt my back, full disclosure, I've hurt my back bad before a couple times. Like I've had back issues intermittently in my lifetime, but I did exactly what you're talking about. I had basically done a full hour-long workout, sort of exhausted everything, but I was just mad at myself after the workout. This was back in CrossFit days. And that's not because CrossFit that is the reason that I hurt my back by any means, but I was just disappointed in my performance. And I'm like, man, I got to start lifting some heavy weight. I mean, literally that was my thought process. And so I'm like mad at myself after the workout. And I'm like, well, I'll just go, just do some like moderate to heavy squats. And I went down, and I also did not come back up.
Yeah.
I as soon as I went down, it was like, I knew something was wrong.
Yeah.
Immediately.
It's a scary feeling.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
You're trying to do the right things, trying to work out, and it happened again. I thought I had sort of rested long enough in between that back injury I just mentioned, and like, you know, that was 2 weeks ago, and then last week I was traveling for work.
That doesn't help anything either.
Doesn't help.
Man, sitting that long time sitting is not
Unknown bed.
Yeah.
Sitting. Yeah, it really was not good. And I didn't stretch like I should have. And unfortunately, at the age I'm at, if I don't do the freaking 15 minutes of stretching, I'm kind of screwed.
You know, I've come to live with it. It's real. You know, as you get older, the body, it just isn't the same. You know, whenever you're younger, I just liken it to everything's kind of like rubber bands and elastic and flexible, and you're just ready to go at, you know, drop of a hat to just perform. And it's just so weird. The older you get, those tendons and ligaments, it seems you gotta get the heat going to them, get some blood flowing, so they kind of loosen up and soften up, so everything moves well. Yeah, it does. It's from my perspective, from a dad with 4 kids, a doctor, you know, I don't know, multiple business. I feel like my time's limited. You know, I'm pretty. I try to be pretty focused on how I divvy up my time and family, getting the most of it. But it stinks that your workouts, I definitely think they stretch out longer for me, simply because I'd have to take easily 15, 20 minutes. I legitimately believe I always do better. And it's just as a general rule, better, but 15, 20 minutes to get really loosened up and warm before I start doing something. Yeah. Really lifting or heavy or doing something else. But
yeah, that's kind of how, you know, in previous episodes, we can say that now, plural, previous episodes, was talking about sleep and, you know, the times that we get up, and in part of that, as soon as I get up, is part of my sort of a spiritual stretch and a physical stretch.
That's good stuff.
I'm gonna get that thing going.
That's good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, I'm back. The back is good.
Yeah.
Had 2 great workout sessions this week. And it just makes you feel, I feel like a tough guy this week, you know, feel really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but yeah, man, now that we're through the beginning part of this little episode, little intro, give you an update on how we're doing. You don't care how we're doing. You want to know how you're doing. You want to know a little bit more. We're gonna give you a little information today. What are we gonna talk about today?
I know people might be tired at this point of hearing about plastics, because there's a whole vast universe of health topics. But I feel like the two topics I think that would be good to talk about today is, one, because we're heading into the beloved New Year, and there's a lot of resolutions going to be happening over the course of the next month, as we start to head into the time to sort of renew our vows on life and health for a lot of people. And, you know, I think that there's some really good data out there that I feel like would be beneficial to share with people, because I think that a lot of people, when they think about health, I think they get really pigeonholed or focused on just the sort of typical fare that you get assessed for in your doctor's office, and that would be blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes. Hey, stop smoking. Hey, get some exercise, eat better. And that's maybe even what they hear is just eat better. And it's like, what does that mean?
Okay, let me eat better. But let me go get this. I saw this funny.
It says, I'll go get the thing that says low fat, no sugar.
Yeah. Like, okay, that's what I'm supposed to do.
So you extracted all the good fats that were in there, and then filled it full of a bunch of artificial non-nutritive sweeteners and whatever other chemicals to try to make it tasty, and then stripped it of all the fiber so it's more palatable. But it is low fat and no sugar, and
so misleading.
That is absolutely
the world. We're living in a misleading world, and underneath that umbrella is your food, water, and air. More so, food and water.
Yeah.
So if today we kind of talk about, all right, well, drink more water. Okay, sure. Am I going to just drink any old water? No.
Hopefully not.
And I don't want to sound bougie, but man, this is a lifesaver. It's one of the best investments I ever made, was a reverse osmosis water system for my home.
Yeah.
And so there's different ones out there, but man, if you're doing the old Brita filter thing still, don't do it.
There's some real truth behind what Joe's talking about. I'll speak towards plastics, not that this is what the show's all about. It just seems that we keep coming back to this because it's a really, actually, I think that it is far more important topic than what is perceived by the public or the average American or anybody that might be listening to this. And so when he's talking about reverse osmosis, people don't realize that they actually consume quite a bit of plastic through their water. It could be anywhere from 0 to, we'll say, like 10,000 parts per liter, particles per liter, which is on a daily basis, you're consuming a lot of plastic. Now, as long as that plastic is above a certain size, at least per in vitro studies, generally that plastic doesn't get absorbed into the gut. We can find it in our excretory components, the urine, the stool. Well, we'll get away from the urine because that's coming out of the blood, but from in the stool. But so you're consuming a lot of plastic, you probably, poop it out, essentially. Pooping out the plastic.
That's good.
But there are plenty of plastics, which is what we're dealing with. And this is where the problem is getting way out of hand downstream that you never could have solved. But as the plastics break down in the environment, they become smaller and smaller, and you run into this trouble of microplastics and nanoplastics. So they get below a sort of certain size, whenever we measure them out. And all of a sudden now, we'll say probably less than 70 microns, maybe even less than that. But all of a sudden now they can start to penetrate the gut barrier. So, and then start to cause inflammation, disruption, and oxidative stress, and a whole bunch of other stuff. And we're literally can absorb these now into our bloodstream. They get into our organs like our liver and our kidney. And it's a real problem. And so then you take that, and then you have this magnifier of our just, inflamed gut. People don't realize like all the stuff that goes in our food that is incredible because we can ship, our fruit from Argentina and eat whatever it is, or, taking whatever it is from Canada or somewhere else. You're getting this food from so far away. Oftentimes it has to be processed and preserved in certain ways. You have to understand what's it doing. It certainly can prevent oxidative things from happening to your food. It also can, affect the fatty components and how they sort of stand up with the food. These are what some of the preservatives are out there for. But, they're also basically essentially trying to make that thing where it can't be broken down. Well, what's going to happen whenever you eat it into your gut? Because that is the sole purpose of what that food, it has to go into your gut, has to be broken down. And so now you've got all this garbage on the food that's preventing it from being broken down, and you're putting it into your gut. And from a whole host of other things that's going to probably be in our food. But then now you're having sort of this breakdown of the gut barrier. And so where normally we'll say something probably can't get in through the gut epithelia, we'll say less than 70 micrometers, or even less than that, you get all this inflammation, and we get what, is lovingly called now, I think in a lot of media, is leaky gut, leaky gut syndrome.
Seeing that
and
a lot.
It's opening you up to certainly be more vulnerable to all these plastics that maybe if you had an intact gut epithelial, you could sort of protect yourself against those. But now you're much more exposed to new chemicals and molecules that maybe you weren't, because you can imagine it's inflamed and open and aggravated. Stuff's getting in.
I kind of freak out when I travel because you go through security. Security. Now you can bring a empty stainless steel water bottle, I believe.
Do they allow that now?
I think they allow that. I still forget that.
Yeah.
But then I'll shoot over to all the waters you could choose from at the airport, depending on which one you're at, and I'll go for it's an expensive water. Now, fortunately, I can expense that.
Yeah, disposable income. I'm going to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah,
keep talking. But
but for me personally, in my job, I go buy that bottle that's I think it's an aluminum bottle. And of course, there's studies about aluminum too.
Sure.
But I have to get water, so I have to take the lesser of the evils.
Yeah.
And so I will choose the bottle that's refillable. I could buy one like that. It's like I forgot the name of it. It's called like Pure something. Anyways, I'll get it, and I'll have that for pretty much most of the trip. I'll just try to find ways to just avoid a plastic water bottle. And as much thought that goes into avoiding plastics and just trying to just live my life day to day. Sorry, just busted my watch open. Time for a new watch. Yeah. Is basically, thinking about that, and something similar to plastics again at home every day. Man, this one gets me, is the coffee pot. The coffee pot.
The blessed coffee pot.
The blessed coffee
I think we
pot.
talked about that maybe episode 1. I don't remember.
Yeah.
We definitely talked about it, but
Yeah.
blessed coffee pot.
But man, I'm telling you, like, for those listening, I bought a nice coffee pot. It was Black Friday. It's like, I'm going to treat myself to a nice coffee pot.
Joe went out. You were
Yeah.
trying to make changes in your life, so you were going out. You're going to go buy
Yeah.
a coffee pot. I'm like, I want to drink coffee, and I don't want to drink plastic. So
Right.
I'm gonna,
I switched my air fryer. My air fryer
Kudos
was
to you. Oh, no,
was
man.
not stainless steel. Now it is.
they make stainless steel air fryers.
They do.
I would consider a stainless steel air fryer, but we literally had an air fryer that was this has been a while back, like PFAS, and I'm like, babe, what are you?
Yeah, let's
thinking?
get this.
Like, what
get
are
it
you?
out.
What are you thinking? She
Yeah.
had turned that thing on when I walked in. The smell,
Yes.
it smelled so wrong. I'm like,
It did smell wrong.
honey, put that crap in a box. Like, it's out. No, we're not eating anything from that.
Yeah.
It smelled so bad. I mean, it's just very unnatural.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm sure it's full of various, they'll say no PFOS, PFOA, and it's like whoop-de-doo. There's 10 million other, PFOS chemicals
All the
that
other
they're using
things.
for a nonstick that
Yeah,
could probably just as dangerous and harmful.
Yeah.
We just haven't gotten there yet. We just need more time on the data, and then eventually, when it's too late and people's been using it for 10 years,
Yeah.
oh, well, liver cancer, kidney cancer, and oh, great,
Yeah.
thanks.
They've
Awesome.
made their money and they've moved on.
Yeah.
Probably out of business. So yeah, coffee pot. The coffee pot saga continues. I get the coffee pot in the mail. It was a glass water reservoir,
Sure.
stainless steel. What do you call them? The pot itself.
Yeah, yeah.
Carafe.
Carafe, yeah.
Carafe. I like carafe.
Carafe,
I think that's how the French say it. Carafe.
probably.
Carafe. But anyways, everything looked great on the outside. I'm like, oh, cool, stainless steel, glass, all of these things that I'm looking for. And then the inside where the filter goes, straight up plastic. I'm like, no, really?
man.
And I tried to find pictures online. I couldn't
I was
like,
gonna say find a replacement, some sort of replacement.
yeah, I sent
basket.
everything back. I was so mad.
I don't blame you, dude.
Yeah, sent it all back. I'm like, the only thing I've found so far is a French press. That's about all. And do I have time for a French press? I don't think I have time for that.
Do a pour over. I mean, have you ever just
Yeah.
a pour over? You get the
I'll
non-bleach, non-dyed filter. You
Yeah.
take your coffee, grind it up. I think you pour it in there. Just get your hot water hot. And
Yeah,
do a pour over.
I'm gonna have to just go old school.
I would try. I've never,
Yeah.
As a disclosure, I don't really drink coffee anymore. The caffeine, I'm just a wuss to it.
You're a matcha guy, aren't you?
I am, yeah. I love matcha. That's the sort of only source of caffeine that I probably regularly intake. It has a totally different profile or effect on me, I feel like, than decaf. And I was drinking decaf because I love coffee. I really do love coffee. But yeah, it literally just made me feel bad. The value proposition of how good does it taste and how cozy it is versus like how does it make me feel? It still makes me kind of feel jittery. It still makes me kind of feel the crash, and it does something to my metabolism. I'm not trying to be weird. Oh, I know my body, but it's palpably.
You make a good point.
Palpably, I know there's something like weird about that I just didn't like, so moved on.
Yeah.
Some people I'm jealous of, man. They get to drink coffee
Some people drink it all day
all
long.
the time. Man, my brother-in-law, like he'll be at nighttime drinking coffee. I mean, we could get into sleep again specifically on caffeine, but even if you can drink coffee late into the night, you shouldn't be drinking it. You really shouldn't be drinking it at past noon. And probably if you could quit even sooner, that would be even better. But I still, the other night, my wife and I were sitting down at after post dinner, and for whatever reason, I'm like, man, it'd be nice to just have a nice hot cup of coffee and sit her on the couch. We were hanging out with the kids, and it's just sort of a cozy.
Yeah, especially around Christmas time. You
Oh,
sit by your
yeah.
tree and drink something hot.
Yeah.
You're like, it's just what you see on the Hallmark Channel. You
Yeah,
know?
I
Like, man,
guess.
I want to do that.
Cold outside, warm inside. Yeah, it's nice. It's
Yeah.
very nice. So, anyways, I guess the coffee pot, you told it to hit the road, and now you're looking
Yeah.
for new options.
I'm gonna probably just keep it simple. Probably
Try the pour over.
I'll try the
man.
pour over. I'll try that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how complicated. I mean, it might take a little bit of time because it's going to sit there in the filter, and you got to pour a little bit, let it
Yeah,
drip, and pour
we'll
a
have
little
to
bit.
see.
How much coffee you drinking?
Not a whole heck of a lot, 2 to 3 cups.
That's a reasonable amount.
Yeah, it's an American
High test,
cup.
like good stuff, right?
It's the coffee itself. Of course, I'm I should say. My wife buys the coffee grounds.
Yeah.
She buys organic coffee grounds.
Yeah.
There's a couple of them out there. Just got one the other day. Death Wish coffee. not plugging Death Wish. I've never actually had the Black Rifle coffee, which
Me neither.
it looks cool packaging.
Yeah,
I like the story behind it.
for sure.
I am a shareholder.
Yeah. Are you?
I am.
Are they public company?
They are now.
I didn't know that.
They
When
are.
did they go public?
A couple years ago,
Really?
and some I don't know, some equities firm or something had them under a different name.
Was it a SPAC? Did a SPAC? Was it a SPAC?
I don't.
Or did they?
I'm sure it did
I thought
at
maybe
first.
SPAC brought it to market. Okay.
But anyways,
So
Boy,
real
going
quick,
on the
I do
weeds.
want to touch because I used to like be so. What would you say? Judgmental. I mean, I don't know other term, and I hate I have no desire to ever be judgmental about anything. But I legitimately was judgmental towards the people drinking the bougie water.
Me too.
I'm trying to think like Fiji, Voss.
Perrier water.
Well, yeah. I mean, Perrier comes in a glass bottle, but so
I know,
I want
mine-
to say most of the time also. So now all of a sudden, I'm kind of like kudos, but I'll just tell you that we don't. As a general rule, I would tell everybody, quit, and we'll get to it maybe whenever we real quick. I'll start talking about this atherosclerotic disease from plastics, but man, don't use water bottles. Do everything in your power. Just buy a cheap stainless steel bottle, or spend more money if you want to buy something. A Yeti, I think, is probably $40 to $60, and reuse that thing. Get you an RO filter and a stainless steel, and save all the money that you're spending. And the big thing downstream is cutting down on the amount of plastic that's finding its way into your body.
Totally agree. Couldn't. That's why I'm on the show.
Okay, so I want to share with everybody, especially you, Joe, because I think it's going to blow your doors. Whenever I read this, it blew my mind, and I want to put this into the airways, and hopefully it can be shared with some other people. I might even cut this out. So I wish I could do it, very eloquently and speak very quickly, but that's just not who I am, and I'm always going to be true to who I am. I'll try to be as succinct, try to use as little likes and ums as possible. But and I'll, it's a sort of a promise. I noticed after I've edited some videos, holy cow. One, I'm tangential. Clearly I'm ADD. I use way too much like, ums, all that. So, communications course is happening right now. I'm trying to improve as a communicator because I don't want it to get in the way of sharing important information to people. But
Well, when you're on a non-scripted show, I mean, there is a theme here, and you're going to continue. I'm going to shut up.
the script is Joe's like, yo, Sauce, what are we talking about
Yeah.
today?
Like,
And
yo,
it's-
take me on this adventure.
And I'm like, yo, Joe, we're going to talk about a really interesting study that I think this should be broadly cast to everybody for the sole purpose of, we talk about plastics, and I think there's plenty of people out there listening, and they're like, who cares? In some senses, because show me the negative effect they've actually had, and then I'll care a little bit more about plastics. So that's a really hard thing to actually do. Even though I do think that we got into some conversations, and that doesn't really show, the negative effects, but plastic being in your central nervous system, that's just not right. But so this is sort of similar vein, but this is different. This is showing a strong association of badness with plastic. So in Italy, God bless them, they did a study trying to basically discern. We have in vitro studies, which means like in a lab. I gotta stop saying that.
In vitro studies are in a lab.
Yeah. So they're doing this in vitro study where they can show with human cells or rats that there's all kinds of negative effects of plastics. It has negative effects on organs, inflammation. It can have impacts on endothelial cells. Those are the cells lining the vasculature from, the heart pumps through the vasculature. But so we don't have any really, at least at the time of the study, which I can't tell you the year it was done, but we didn't have any really good data showing some significant impact that those things that we see in the lab translate to actual bad outcomes or something happening to people. But it at least sought to say, let's see if we can do a study and potentially find some correlation here. So what they did is they took all these people that were lined up for a carotid endarterectomy, which is essentially the carotid artery runs up here. It's the place that you can feel in your neck pulsing whenever you're checking for a pulse on someone, or you can feel your own pulse very easy.
So wait, these people, this group of people had the this situation.
So they had, remember we talked about atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease? They had atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, atheroma,
Wonder why.
fatty plaques here in their necks. We'll get there. It's multifactorial, but
Right.
so these people, based on NASCAT criteria, which is sort of this gold standard of how we're perceiving what is beneficial, when it's time to cut into someone's neck and remove these plaques and patch them up versus not. And these were asymptomatic people. But so they figured out that they needed probably around 250 people to have the proper power to be able to really assess this. What they found in these 250 people that got their carotid plaques cut into and the plaque removed, they took the plaques out and they sent them in a glass jar. Didn't send it in a plastic jar.
A petri dish. In that glass?
So specifically, it says in the study that they actually put it, I think, in a glass test tube. So specific, because you got to figure, like, well, you threw it in a plastic. I'm sure you're going to find plastic in it because it was in a plastic petri dish. But so they put it in a glass tube and they send it off to a lab where they basically melt away all the human tissue. Don't burn it off, just melt it. High heat, no oxygen, so just human tissue melts away, and then we can see via gas chromatography and electron microscopy that there's plastics in these people's atheromas in their neck.
It was just sitting in the dish, the only thing left.
Dangling, dangling. All the tissue's gone.
And it was like,
and then you got sparkly plastic left behind.
Yeah.
It's small amounts, but it is 100% there. So I want to say maybe 40 parts per million. I don't know the actual metric in which they measure them out. It's a small amount, but it is still a quantitative amount that we can actually see. About 60% of people had these in their neck. Polyethylene is the number one. We talked about this last time.
Polyethylene.
Yeah, which we'll get back to.
Isn't it in clothing?
It can be in clothing. Your plastic Tupperware, your plastic bag that you put your sandwich in, your plastic bottle that you're drinking your water out of.
Darn. You're
plastic
screwed.
Bags. It's pretty ubiquitous. But so they find 60% of these people polyethylene. What they did is beautiful. For 3 years, they followed the patients who did not have any plastic in their neck, and 3 years of the people who did have the plastic in their neck.
And what happened?
60% of the people with plastic, 40% that did not have plastic. They follow these people out over the course of 3 years, and what do you think they find? And what they're looking for is, hey, if we found plastic in your carotid artery, are you more likely to have a heart attack, stroke, or die in the next 3 years? That was essentially the question they were asking. Because that would be a reasonable sort of, is there an association with plastics in your first? They obviously found cardiovascular disease with plastic inside of it, but now if we do find it, does that impose a risk to you? Yes.
Is there an association with plastic and aneurysms?
If you
how these random aneurysms happen?
So
I just got to add that to the list because that freaks me out.
When they follow the people out over basically 160% increase of heart attack, stroke, and death over the next 3 years. If you look at the data, which I'll probably take a picture and I'll show you, and you guys, everybody, go look this up. Don't take my word for it. This is Open Network JAMA. You can look at this article. Everybody can see it.
I Googled it when you texted me.
You can Google this article.
I read it myself.
It's incredible. But if you look at it, 166% increase of heart attack, stroke, and death in these people. But if you look at it, I don't know. I would have to look into the fine details. I don't think they looked at this. But if you look at it, you can see that the odds increase is increasing dramatically. So that if we probably follow these people, it's 166% over the course of 3 years. But if you look at the death rate of those post endarterectomy without the plastic, it looks very linear. As opposed to those with the plastics in there, you can see that
it's like the chart goes up like this.
Hyperbolic, yes.
Yeah, and hockey stick would be the stick.
So
and the little what's the bottom part of the hockey stick?
So the blade.
The blade.
Yeah.
I'm not a hockey player, so. My favorite hockey player was Happy Gilmore. But talk about that.
I love hockey.
So yeah,
I won't jump off.
Adam is a hockey player. I've seen him in action.
I love hockey. It's one of the most amazing cardiorespiratory fitness sports on the face of the planet.
You look like you're wearing Carolina Hurricanes gear right now.
I'm not, but I'm a Carolina Hurricanes fan to the max. So, anyways, So the point is I think that if we would follow these people out, it would be even worse. I want to give a major sort of disclosure here in that the increased death rate, it's not causality. I'm not saying that the plastic itself, or we can't prove this from the study, but what we can show is there's a significant association with when we're finding plastic in your neck, you're much more at risk for deaths, heart attacks, strokes. And so, I don't know if you've ever heard someone talking about studies, because a lot of epidemiologic studies, they can show association, but they're not showing causation. But so, for example, let's say that if I look at and see a squirrel in my yard today, and we looked at everybody, and people were 75% more likely to die if they saw a squirrel in their yard. So the point of that is the squirrel didn't cause the death, but it should. If that's a pretty decent association, 75% of people were dying with the squirrel, whereas if they, or 75, we'll say 100% increase of people who saw the squirrel died. The people who did not see the squirrel, did not die. The thing is there's probably something there. It might not have anything to do with the squirrel per se, but there probably is some connection. The fact that the timing is so close. So from my perspective, in most simplest terms, is if this high association with this plastic, with heart attacks, strokes, and death, it's something that you simply, without ruining your life in any way, shape, or form, in fact, you'll quite make your life so much better getting away from the plastic. Even if it's not the causation, it's kind of like, I'm just not even going to play with that. I'm happy to try to limit the amount of plastic in my life. I think that it's not crazy expensive or difficult to make.
It's doable. It's a doable thing for, I think, anybody listening.
So the big thing that he talked about earlier, I don't know how many people listening have a reverse osmosis water system. You can get them. I want to say $300 maybe. $300 to $500 probably. You can spend, if you're doing whole house, you're going to spend a lot more.
Yeah, you are. You could be in an apartment or condo. You could be renting. You may not be able to do that.
Oh, that's true.
So there are devices out there that you can still get your hands on.
To anybody that's listening, I would love for you not to key up the whatever searches for YouTube by putting comments, but I would love for you to make a comment if you could engineer or tell people, if you're someone in an apartment, of maybe a way or a means that to be able to process your water so that you can sort of avoid these plastics. And the reason the reverse osmosis is so sort of invaluable, he talked about the Brita filters. It's probably not going to catch a lot of the other stuff too. Like PFAS will probably slip by some of the simple carbon filters, and they wear out so fast. Whereas RO is this membrane where it basically lets very minimal to anything through. And I would encourage, if there's some means, to be able to reverse osmose your water, even if you're in an apartment. But if somebody lives in an apartment and you have a means or a way, man, put it in the comments, because it'd be helpful for some people. Because I would encourage,
definitely.
To me, it's a kind of like a way that you're going to spend money. You're trying to get the most bang for your buck. And I think that over the long haul, it's an upfront investment that it's not inconsequential, but I think that it's worth itself and pays major dividends. And it's a simple way of something that people could do to try to help limit their plastics in their life. So get your RO system, and then get your stainless steel water bottle, and get your stainless steel water bottle for your kids, and quit handing out and no hating on Sam's or Costco, whoever, but these cheapo junk plastic bottles that then get left in the car and get heated up, and it's just bad news bears. Stay away from the stuff.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you're in survival mode. You got to drink water. Hey, it's okay. It's okay at that point.
So sure,
you're just trying to survive.
As also as a disclosure, it's not the last time I'll ever drink water from a plastic bottle. It's gonna you're gonna be on vacation, you're gonna be a trip or something, and you gotta drink water. You gotta drink water. Is what it is. It's poor, but be mindful of it and just try to become a better planner and fill up some water bottles before you go someplace, so you're drinking your good, clean water.
Yeah, just trying to reduce. It is funny. There are memes or reels or stories or whatever out there making fun of people that, what did you do in the 90s? You didn't fill up a water bottle and then go shopping. Man. Or you're going to town. Or we're going into town. We got to get your water filled up. I'm like, what? I got 2 gallons of water and the 4 of us in the car. All right, we're going into town today. Gonna go do, hanging out, do some things, and don't forget your water. It's like, wow, what's happened to me?
I used to think.
I used to not ever think of those things.
I used to be around the moms that would be, really intense. That they always had the water, and I was kind of like, man,
like, gee, you and your water.
It's like you must be a helicopter mom. It's like way over the top, because I did grow up in the 80s and the 90s, and now I'm kind of. I think they were smart. I think way to go. Kudos to them. They're just being vigilant, and more power to them. They'll reap the benefits from it.
Yeah. So I'm doing that. And a one-liner to sort of
Oh, here comes the
top.
one. Everybody ready? Here comes the one.
This is not from a funeral home. This is I heard this one randomly, and it's nothing profound. Maybe it is. Maybe it's the way if I said it a certain way. So I'll get McConaughey on you. Hey, listen, man, don't pay the price without knowing the cost. All right.
That's good.
I appreciate you. Put a little feliz in your Navidad. That was his latest ad. Was a Pantalone tequila.
Oh yeah, and that's what he said.
It said, "Put a little feliz in your Navidad." No, it was written out. But just give me a call, Matt. I'll do it for you.
So I'll have to disagree with him. That's a good way to disrupt your sleep. We've talked about it.
Yeah. Don't do that.
Have we talked about it? Did that make it in any episode? I don't know.
Yeah, we did. Talked about
alcohol.
Talking about drinking, yeah.
Well, particularly with sleep, alcohol.
Yeah, alcohol and sleep. That was like our.
I think I'll put out like a couple Instagrams here. One of them, alcohol. Man, alcohol and sleep just doesn't mix. It fragments your sleep, disrupts your REM sleep. It's just not good. It's a shame.
Yeah.
Anyways,
it is, man. We can talk about that for.
We keep going back to the RO. I think it's just a simple thing. I'll keep putting it out there. Believe it or not, this is the thing that shocked me as I've dove into plastics over the years. I think the thing that really baffles me, and it goes to I want clean air. Legitimately, there probably is a case basis for using some sort of HEPA filter or filter in your house, because what I didn't realize is that we actually probably do consume a lot of plastic through our air. We're probably getting it in our secretions and swallowing into our gut, maybe makes it in that way.
Yeah.
Or we're breathing it in. Most of it gets swept back up by our cilia and our lungs. These are little finger-like projections that clean our lungs out. But there's going to be some of them that are small enough to be able to get through sort of the epithelial barrier or some other means where they're getting inside of cells and then doing all their damage. But that is in our air. It's consistently in our air that travels with the dust and everything else. And so we have this problem that's accumulating. That's the problem, is plastics aren't going out of style right now. They're continuing to be manufactured and made. And so over time, they're going to keep getting dumped. They're going to keep getting broke down. They're going to keep ending up in our water. They're going to keep getting up ending in our air. And they don't disappear overnight. They just sort of continue and on. And they get smaller and smaller, making them more and more dangerous and deadly. And so I say deadly.
Association with death.
Associated with bad things.
And I think, it's guilt by association. These plastics are hanging out with our food and water.
Well,
they're guilty. I don't care what the study says. They're guilty.
We're talking about, I brought up the Tupperware. We made a switch. I don't know if you've gone this far, but our Tupperware now, we have stainless steel, basically a stainless steel Tupperware, or glass is sort of, we've gone.
Yeah.
Because, I'm not going to sit here on this show and on Instagram and promote this stuff to Desolate Health and then myself not be making the same changes. I'm not going to ask anybody else to do something that we ourselves are not doing. And I'll also give full disclosure about how I'm not someone who's always trying to limit things. I mean, Christmas time, buddy, I am going to enjoy some really crappy food.
I want the Oreo balls, somebody make them for me, please.
The trouble is I think that we get in this, we don't realize that we're eating Christmas junk food all year long. We just don't even realize it.
It's just not red or green.
We just keep turning to this processed stuff. Man, go have some freaking coffee and pumpkin pie, as they say in the song, for Christmas. Help yourself.
Yeah, maybe we'll have some pumpkin pie. Did they say maybe?
It might be maybe. Some coffee and pumpkin. But I think it is coffee, though. Coffee and pumpkin pie.
But they ended up doing it, I think, in the song. Yeah. And actually, it's funny. Mr. Haywood, my friend, if he's listening, he might tune into this episode.
Clay, if you're out there, bro.
Yeah, Clay.
Shout out.
He's, he could vouch for the things I was saying on the previous episodes. He said, "Hey, man, I got my stainless steel water bottle." I'm like, "You the man." He says, I listened to you guys at work the other day. I said, "That's really? Awesome. You are the man."
That's awesome.
I said, "Shout out to Clay Haywood."
Cheap, man. You could go see my stainless steel water bottle. Cheap thing you can get from pretty much anywhere. Go for it.
Yeah. So, thank you, Mr. Haywood.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe we'll have some pumpkin pie and do some caroling.
Yeah.
Not going to do the caroling. I will have some pumpkin pie. A coffee and the pumpkin pie, Adam.
I want to just, this is not segueing at all. I just want to take a second to speak about something my wife and I talked about. One, it's a plug for a book. I don't know. It's in the movie theater, I think, because we're supposed to go watch it. The worst Christmas, best Christmas pageant or something.
Is this
Do
in
you know
theaters?
the name of it? I think it's in theaters. Do you know what I'm talking about? The book?
No.
I think it was written in like 1970. The book is the worst best Christmas pageant ever, or something of that nature. Mm-hmm. I had no clue about the book. My wife just gave it to me and said, "Here, we're going to read this." And the book, I mean, just tore me up. It's a great book.
Is it funny?
Oh, it's hilarious.
Okay, so it's really funny.
You just, dude. Oh my gosh, Joseph.
How do I not know about this?
You haven't read the book. I've
been needing a new book lately.
I'm so excited, Joe. I'm going to give you our book.
It was either The Art of War or this book.
I want you to go home with your kids and read it with your kids. It's about 100 pages, but it's so easy. You guys will laugh. I think that you'll laugh your pants off, especially if you're somebody who grew up in the 80s and 90s. I think
I'm an elder millennial
it sort of
now.
grabs it. But there's a piece in that book where it talks about, I won't give anything away. No, whatever you call it. But so
no Cliff's Notes either.
Not at all. But there was a moment where people's outside and there's just a description of kind of the snow in the street, and immediately the nostalgia and it's childhood memory unlocked going back. I'm from further up north. I'm originally from West Virginia. And so
West Virginia.
It was cold and snow and crunchy ice and the beautiful Christmas lights.
Jealous.
That crisp, cold mountain
I'm jealous
air.
of that.
There was something so warm and fuzzy about it, and I miss it tremendously.
I'm sorry I can't give you that here, Adam.
Yeah,
Not here in the Southeast.
You're talking about, we're talking about coffee and pumpkin pie, and I can't help. I love the nostalgia of Christmas. I love the Christmas memories. I hope, and not everybody's had a great Christmas. My wife did not have great Christmas growing up. She had, they had family troubles. The parents are divorced. Love both. Her my stepdad, not my stepdad, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law.
Wait a second here.
I love them and their families. That's all like fine and well, but it's hard. And there's a lot of families that are going through these sort of things, in all around the world.
It can be a very tough time of year, obviously.
Absolutely. And my wife had to go through that. And, she doesn't have not all the same perspective that I had from Christmas. But I feel like since marriage, I feel like we've sort of really been able to bring it back and create some just lovely, warm, cozy memories for Christmas time with the kids and just being together. So
that's my goal as a father. Got a family, husband, all that. I'm the husband. Let me clarify.
Come on, George. Let me go.
Listen, I'm just kidding, man. I'm the husband. I got a wife, 2 kids, 4 of us, quattro. Okay, listen. Anyways, we have great memories together. We do a lot of fun things, tradicionales.
Yeah.
Down in Texas. But yeah, we that's my goal, is to have as many freaking great traditions and memories. I'm just like piling on. I'm the Clark Griswold, eternal optimist. I want, those meals with the family members, and even if you don't agree with them, bring them on, man. Come on. I got a crazy uncle. He loves Donald Trump. He'll send me, before the election, I was getting a meme. I was getting so much spam from him every day. Anyways, the point is making those good memories at Christmas time.
Yeah.
I'm not going to avoid all of the harmful things we're talking about on the show today. Yeah. I'm going to live it up a little bit.
Sure.
The little Christmas cup filled with coffee. I'm going to have it.
Yeah.
I'm going to enjoy it.
It's the daily grind. It's the daily things that I really think are the big things adding up. It's not, I would not try to restrict it to holiday time, Christmas, or think that's not when you're saving yourself and really making your life long. It's the day-to-day sort of decisions that we're making. But, I'm going to jump into cardiorespiratory fitness. That's a fancy terminology for just your body's ability to do work.
Doing work.
Yeah, because I came across some data. This has been a while back, but I just revisited it the other day because I was doing some work with a patient, and I was just looking over their numbers where we were doing sort of an assessment. One important assessment that I do with people, believe it or not, there's many things that are assessed and can be important, but your VO2 max or your cardiorespiratory fitness is an actual very, very important health metric for me, and should be a very important health metric for everybody else out there whenever you're assessing your own health. Like, how healthy am I?
What does that mean, broken way down to the simplest form?
Which a health metric?
Yeah, like okay, I'm a regular dude. I've got metrics. I'm not looking at them online. I'm not looking.
Yeah.
I don't have any kind of thing to look at. It's just okay. What's a metric that I can feel or maybe do like
So
at the gym.
to give people understanding, whenever you go to your doctor, they're checking blood work or we'll say they do blood work.
Yeah.
So what they're looking at are proxies of health,
Proxies.
meaning it's
Drill down on proxies.
a proxy, something that is approximate to actual. If we don't, there's no
Approximate.
right. There's no way that we can just look at you and say this is what your health is. So then we get this data that are proxies to.
Got my numbers.
Yep, we know people who are really, really healthy tend to have these numbers.
They got these numbers.
They live long time. They don't have heart attacks. They don't have strokes. They don't get cancer. And then we have people that have these numbers, and then there's sort of the spectrum in between. And so we're using these proxies.
You look at the deltas.
That's right, to try to figure out, hey, how healthy is this person, and what's the best mode of action after we sort of risk stratify them. What's the key issues here that we need to work on and change so that we can, low hanging fruit. I'm looking for ways that I can get you closer to that, the healthiest person that you can be with the least amount of work. Because usually that's what you're trying to go for first. You're trying to go for the low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
The sort of cheapest, most from a time point and financial standpoint to be able to be as healthy as quickly as possible, as much as possible. And then you can continue to work after you get the big low hanging fruit, work on the fine details to really dial in your health. Well, one that on, I would say, regular basis that you won't be checked on in your doctor's office is, I'm going to use the term cardiorespiratory fitness because that's what they call it in the study, but we'll just say your body's capacity to utilize oxygen and produce energy.
Which is how good can you run?
More, I mean, yeah, and bike and swim and move.
Do you suck at walking, running?
How much
like
work
in
or
cardio?
What they looked at there was metabolic equivalent of task, which is getting back to your capacity to be able to do work via processing oxygen and energy. So, and it drills down on a point that I feel like medicine I hope is transitioning. I think a lot of the functional medicine types, because I think that branch of medicine is growing exponentially.
Give me one example of functional medicine.
That's what we're talking about today, functional medicine. The medicine that equates to healthy living in your day-to-day decisions to functionally be a better human being. That means better nutrition, better fitness.
These are
better
functional
sleep,
medicines.
Yes, avoiding environmental insults. That's sort of functional health.
Okay, because you made it sound like it was a branch of medicine that's taking off like it's something.
In some ways it is. I mean,
like-
I think more than ever doctors are getting more and more aware and more focused on the fact that the functional aspect of our lives, functional medicine, is sort of the base in which all these patients are standing on. And, we come into office and we get pigeonholed in just checking a cholesterol or just checking a blood pressure and take a blood pressure pill or just take we sort of all know something about that ain't right. So obviously there's there's some cause and effect that's happening like upstream that's causing the downstream problems. Most people are like, hey, can you just tell me what I need to do so I don't have the downstream problem? Let's fix it, by my daily life. What am I doing in my daily life that I can fix? So I just think, advent obviously of internet media, it helps because people who don't have a voice can't project to large audiences. You get some information from your trusted health professional, and I still encourage everybody to do that. But, I think they can go on the internet and start to go around and listen to what people are saying. And even though you're not necessarily doing what someone is saying, because it's not a doctor-patient relationship, yada, 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 but they're hearing it and it's making them aware of, oh, snap. Dr. Saucerman said there's plastic in people's necks.
They're not telling you that at the
and
checkup.
They're like twice as likely to die.
Yeah.
I don't want plastic in my neck. We're getting an RO filter. To me, that's sort of what's transpiring here. And the cool thing is, I think it's a cool thing is that I probably won't get to see, and a lot of these people won't get to see all the benefit that they've created for a lot of people. And I'm excited. I was editing. Oh, this is a clip from, it was a clip from us. I think it was in the second episode, which, if you haven't watched the second episode, I thought it was good.
Out
because
now.
Joe tricked me in, you kind of dug into my life. And then I'm sitting here talking about where does Desolate Health come from? Why is all, but in there, I specifically discussed just how I'm getting lost. I'm rabbit holing. ADD. I'm going to watch. I'm going to get back into this.
You sound good to me. What I was doing in that episode, and I'll probably continue to do it. I'm gonna interview you because we want to know what this doctor's talking about, what this doctor's about. Yeah. We also, how you fill out the pre-existing conditions form before you can come see me, or I see you, whatever. That's what we're doing to you.
Yeah.
You got any pre-existing?
No,
issues,
back pain.
Okay, we'll tune in then. We'll listen to you.
But so anyways, in there, I encourage doctors. Hopefully, there's other doctors that might come across this. Some are probably going to scoff. Whatever, they can.
You know what? Let them scoff.
Enjoy themselves.
Let them scoff.
I would encourage doctors to be more vocal and outspoken about all these things that we need to be telling patients to begin with. Mm-hmm. And you're not going to be able to get all the time during your little 15 or 30 minute or even an hour sit down. It's hard to go through some of these things. Mm-hmm. Trying to put out good information that's, rigorously data backed as best to your ability. And, so people can listen in and try to gain consensus on topics like plastic or their water or their air or whatever it is, or sleep. Anyways, so cardiorespiratory fitness. That was a big loop. Whenever I edit this, I'm gonna be like, oh man. I'm saying I'm trying not to do this.
I think we did circle back around.
Yeah. So
it was good. It's good.
This is data, and it's large data, so there's something to be said about it. But they looked at 120,000 exercise treadmill tests. And the beauty of that is,
that's a lot.
So these people are being referred over for various reasons. And it's my understanding that basically the treadmill test is pretty standardized. You get on the treadmill, they increase speed and
incline.
Yep, every 3 minutes, I want to say, for about 15 minutes. I do have questions. I don't think the answer it there because I don't personally do exercise treadmill tests, but I'll just wonder if someone's feeling great and they're doing great, do they keep going and just see, how far can they go with this? But
how much time they have.
Yeah. So anyways, they looked at all these people with exercise treadmill tests, and they're basically trying to utilize this to know what a person's capacity to do work, their metabolic equivalent of tasks, their peak performance, which could carry over fairly well with your VO2 max. It's going to be very, very similar, if not identical in some sense, like if you look at how the measurements are put out. But so they paired these people out of 25th percentile, 25 to 50th percentile, 50 to 75th percentile, and then 75 to 96th percentile or 97th percentile, and then the upper crust 2.5%, 3%, which are considered elite. So low, below average, above average, high, and elite. And what was shocking is whenever they take these people and they calculate out, so they're able to use a regression model and find out basically, because there's people with blood pressure, some people have blood pressure and cholesterol, some people have diabetes, and there's 120,000. So there's a bunch of people with all those problems, a bunch of people with dialysis, all these variables, their genders. I'm trying to think what else, age, what all goes into the equation, but they're able to basically solve for individual variables in the equation. And they're looking at these 120 people, and then they follow them out for 8 to 10 years. And what they found was that if you look at traditional risk factors, everybody, I've got high blood pressure. Oh man. So, they start making changes, changing their diet, or, my doctor told me I got the sugar. I got diabetes. Mm-hmm. So, that's a really big one. People start to really freak out because they know, diabetes, I might lose my toes and I'm going to have all these problems. And diabetes has a ton of associated badness with it. Mm-hmm. But so what was amazing is that your overall mortality, and that's what they were looking at, sort of all-cause mortality, chance that you're going to die. One of the strongest predictors of whether or not you're going to die wasn't necessary. It wasn't diabetes or blood pressure or cholesterol. It was your cardiorespiratory fitness.
Heart disease.
So coronary disease.
Coronary disease?
No. So your cardiorespiratory fitness. Now, obviously, your capacity to do work, if you have coronary disease, you're not going to be able to do the work that you could if you didn't have the coronary disease. So there's some of that in there, but they're trying to solve this stuff out. Well, basically, if you take, and the most easiest example to look at this would be if you took somebody who's in the 25th to 50th percentile, we'll say below average fitness level. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying below average and how many times you go to the gym or below average in your weight. This is your capacity to do work. If you just move from below average to above average, that in and of itself
How many points is that?
Is
What?
equal to, or it's essentially equal, or maybe even better than going from not being a diabetic or being a diabetic to not being a diabetic. Mm-hmm. So my point in all this is I want to reorient or recalibrate people's thought process whenever they're thinking about being healthy, because most people are just thinking, I just don't want to have high blood pressure, cholesterol, or diabetes, and they think that they've got the attaboy or the pat on the back. Mm-hmm. But if you look at it, you want to focus on, again, low-hanging fruit. It's not low-hanging fruit in that the biggest sort of change or value add. You should be caring a lot about how fit am I and can I get from low, below average to above average. If you go from low, so the bottom 25% up into that 25 to 50%, you're talking about literally a 100%, increase or change in the likelihood ratio of or hazard. They were basing it on a hazard ratio. You're 100% more likely to die if you're going from the low or below average to low. If you go from the high to the low, you're talking about a 40% difference. So, I mean, that is huge. That's this. Diabetes is the same. So about 40%, you have about a 40% more likelihood of dying with diabetes. You'd be like 40% more likely to die if you were somebody in that below category. So when you're thinking about your health and why fitness matters, and you should care about your overall, your cardiorespiratory fitness, use that term, you should think about that as we're going into the new year and you're setting resolutions, as opposed to setting a resolution of just your weight. I would say that's not as a good or accurate proxy to your health. There are people who are skinny, who are sick, and there are people who are obese that are well. There's we the term people call like the skinny fats, or there's these just big people who are actually very healthy overall. Like they're just from a risk stratification standpoint, they're much less likely to die than that person, even though this person is, multiple BMI less than them. But based on their cardiorespiratory fitness, that person's actually in pretty good shape. It doesn't mean that person's says, okay, I'm done. I'm not going to do anything more. No. But then you start looking towards other things to be able to affect or improve, and you want to maintain or continue to establish that great cardiorespiratory fitness. Is that all coming clear?
That is coming in clear.
So one other thing, I've already talked a lot, but the thing that I love about this study and too just about this fact is I want people to recognize the study didn't look at how many times a week did you go to the gym. It looked at your performance. So it's not about, well, I've been to the gym 8 times, this week.
Yeah.
So there's people who potentially are going to the gym 8 times and are not as in good a shape or better off than the person who was going maybe 4 times, but very had, we'll just say, a clear workout program and system that they were working in that was producing the best outcomes. And so it's very outcome oriented as opposed to just like, I guess the difference would be like the projection of being healthy because you go to the gym all the time. That doesn't actually mean that you're actually healthy. It's probably better than doing nothing most of the time.
Yeah.
But really focusing on, I want to know what my objective number is, and I'm really focused on how can I improve that number. And I think it'll help drive you to be focused on the right things whenever you're trying to, improve your overall health. But again, cardiorespiratory fitness, people should be caring about that number absolutely as much as diabetes because they confer the same risk just to go from below average to above. And if you're in that low to the below average category, that's a better improvement than the diabetes did.
So are you saying that going to the gym and having a better plan in place when you go to the gym is key? Like, okay,
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I could go to the gym, and there are days where you're, like this week, had so far, great week of working out. I'm like, yeah, lifting good, just really feeling tough.
Yeah.
Feeling like a tough guy this week. And,
I was feeling really tough.
last week I wasn't, doing so good,
But then,
I was kind of like, got knocked out, It's down for the count.
sometimes the weeks will do that to you.
Yeah. And so, and I'll have days in the gym. I'm like, man, what am I doing here? I'm not doing much. I'm just talking. And Clay Haywood, who already said his name on the show, he'd be like, "Yeah, that guy's over there talking too much, not getting anything done." But yes, I agree. For myself, I do want to jump back in classes. They're structured. I need some of that structure. Some people are good doing it on their own. For as long as I've been going now, I do have a good idea on what I want to do. So yeah, you got to optimize the hour or 30 minutes
Absolutely.
or whatever.
We talked about it in the last set.
For sure.
I think just to reaffirm that this study and this data set, which is I would say this is very reliable. It's 120,000 people's sort of a very rigorous and fantastic study to sort of look at. I would encourage people, again, going back to if you only have an hour, get the most out of the hour. And I really think that you need to look into getting a tailored fitness program where you're monitoring these things and you're going in very, focused when you're going into the gym because you have an achievement that you're looking to, obtain. You're trying to work through and move yourself up that cardiorespiratory fitness ladder. Mm-hmm. And if you're not, there's definitely ways to work at that more efficiently than others. And that's where I feel people, which if they're listening to this podcast, they probably already do care about their health quite a bit. Mm-hmm. They really need to look into themselves, whether it's talking with, personal fitness trainer, doing some research on the internet. The tough thing is if it's here on the show, I'm not going to be able to give, because I really think it's going to end up being somewhat tailored to people because some people respond differently to the sort of fitness that you put on them. But definitely, I think the thing that gets neglected by quite a few people is the aerobic component of that. And that's what we're mainly looking at when we're talking about cardiorespiratory fitness is that aerobic component, the capacity to be able to consume that oxygen, turn it into energy and do work. And people should really care about that metric, that number.
So many arguments about, it depends on your goals. People will knock cardio because you're lifting. I'm lifting weights. I ain't doing cardio. I ain't got time for that. I'm like, man, and then I hear so many conflicting things. I'm in this, I get sucked into the world of health, the health algorithm on Instagram.
Yeah.
And, but I have the willpower I can remove myself from it.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get influenced by it like maybe I used to. I've become wise.
Yeah.
From all the things I've heard. Oh my gosh. I mean, some things that we can talk about in the future.
Yeah.
Related to that, going back to water real quick. Hydrogen water. You hear about the hydrogen water crap? Okay. That's one. Another one that I really want to take a dive on for the listeners. Continue to click the link below and subscribe to the Desolate Health Podcast. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Joe, for the plug in the podcast.
Yeah, that's a good part. You could just put there a little snippet, snip it on in. But yeah, what I'm getting at is another thing, natural flavors. Oh my gosh.
My wife and I just had
the word natural flavor.
This. We're probably going to do a dive here on the show.
But I don't want to go there. Yeah.
No, we will. Whenever I get through some of it. But
yeah.
We used to be big drinkers of bubbly. It's not necessarily that brand, but bubbly. I presume LaCroix is probably in that same family.
I think that's why I have this.
Spindrift. Is that what you're drinking there? That's the typical Costco thing that you find. But,
holding that up. The ingredients is carbonated water and lemon juice. That's it.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Not bad. It's in an aluminum can, but you know what? Fire me. What are you going to do?
But, yeah, I think that I would like to know what said natural flavors really are. So that it stinks. We live in a world that is full of things that can increase your sin. I'm not trying to tell anybody to do anything. I just want people to be informed so they can make informed decisions and decide when they look at that value proposition, it's worth it to me or it's not. And also people don't even have to care that they're going to go out on this curve. And I'll say that if I could draw it for you, but I'll do it with my hands. And the camera will lose focus because it's got a tight aperture. So I'll do it close to my face. Yeah. But if you look at the curve and the amount of work that it takes to really improve your health and the length of your life and your sort of health span, so the vitality of your life during that time, you get by far and away the most gains with the minimal amount of work at the front half of that curve. And then slowly over time, after you get probably to 80 or 90% worth of, or percentile, we'll say, of people who's really putting in the time and the fitness, all stuff, the gains start to fall off a little bit in a sense. Like you're having to go to further and further lengths to sort of continue to improve. And I guess I would just say, you're somebody who might be fine with really the lower hanging fruit and know that I might be subject to some worse consequences downstream, but it's just not worth it to you to go that extra length. There's some people that are, kudos to them that they go to the absolute 100% to, almost pure neurosis. I don't think that's necessarily a good thing if it's affecting you in that way, but, more power to you. That's your life. You make the decisions to how you can have good knowledge of everything. And then based on the risk and benefit, is the benefit outweigh the risk to me? And if it does, great. I'm just glad that you got to live in a world where you had the knowledge to make the decisions that are best for you and your family.
Yeah, I'm not going to make you do it either. He's not, so we're just making you aware. And I tell you what, it's pretty enlightening to know what I know now. And it makes sense.
Oh, yeah.
What I've learned.
Knowledge is the foundation.
Yeah.
I feel like with the knowledge, there's a psychology component because there's this is the troubling thing, and this is great. This is a plug. Well, you know what? It doesn't work because the podcast series, the Spot Life podcast series will already be out by the time this airs, I believe so. But as a plug, the Spot Life podcast series, which we're going to be promoting starting this week, probably by the end of the week, we'll probably launch it, maybe Thursday or Friday. But I'm doing a whole separate podcast specifically on people who have gone through incredible circumstances and being able to overcome those, whether that was obesity, addiction, anxiety, depression, PTSD, sort of these things, maybe even just disaster. And the heartache and trouble comes with disaster that struck their life. But, there's this psychological and emotional component to all these things. Even when you have the knowledge of something doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to do it. Do you know what I mean? Like there's things where I know this is the good that I would like to do, but instead I do the thing that I don't want to do. That has been the sort of case for mankind forever. And it stinks, but I still, 100% believe that the knowledge still is the foundation for which your brain can start to assess those things so that it becomes a scenario where the value proposition changes for me, just like it did for, having a Moscow Mule whenever I cook in the garage. Anymore, I still might some point down the road just decide today the value proposition's there. I'm going for the Mule.
Yeah.
But as a general rule, I don't really hardly drink the Moscow Mule in the garage anymore whenever I'm cooking a steak.
Yeah.
Not because I feel constricted. I literally I don't want to because it's not worth it to me. And so, but I do think that basis, that, sort of knowledge basis helps shape and guide your brain so that you can make better, sort of more calculated decisions for yourself and your life. And it goes back to the thing that I would promote at Desolate Health with my patients, with everywhere's. Health is so much just like, I think the thing that most people would be in contact with at the age group of the people that's probably listening to this would be sort of investing or saving up for some sort of retirement. Health is the same way. It's this sort of slow, boring daily grind that at the end, all of a sudden you're like, wow, I've got something saved because there's sort of these increasing, compounding interest of all these little decisions you're making. I was going to say
compounding interest
early in your life. Health is not, you don't become a millionaire in your health overnight, just as a general rule, you don't.
Yeah.
Especially by the time you're 30 or 40, a lot of things have happened to you. It takes time to sort of break free or really start to change trajectories. Expect that and be okay with it. Just be somebody who's diligent, shows up every day and wakes up every day, wanting to make those good decisions for themselves and for their families.
Yeah. RFK Jr. didn't look like that. And overnight, how old is RFK Jr.?
He's older, man. He looks pretty tough. I don't know. We'll get into.
I can't do his voice. Can you do his voice?
No, dude, I can't do any voices. But
I can't. Wait, let me.
Oh no, RFK. I didn't even think about it.
Adam, it's great to be on.
He's got the.
That's too loud in my ears.
I know. He's got the neurologic thing with his vocal cords. Yeah.
Yeah. What was the cause of that?
Neurodegenerative is what he said. Some sort of neurodegenerative issue to where it's really affected his
I can't even try to do his voice. It hurts my voice.
God bless him. It does. It sounds like he's straining so hard all the time. But
I know, man. I'm like, man, I really, I hate to say it. It's like, man, I really liked what he had to say when I listened to him on the podcast. And in general, I think he's got some great ideas for what the future holds for.
People are there's people who I genuinely believe. I don't know. I think there's some people out there who are really afraid of him. But I think
because they've been doing bad for a while.
I think if you listen to him communicate and talk, I think for most Americans and most of the people that and it's obviously very biased to the people I'm going to interact with, but because just more so geographically
where you live,
right? So, and I talk to all kinds of different people in the emergency department, and we don't get into necessarily political talks, but they'll bring up RFK. It seems overall it's very positive. And I think that if people just look into some of the things he's saying, apart from some of the more controversial, whenever we're talking about, he's not a fan of Anthony Fauci. He has found that from the data he looks at, that there are risks out there that maybe we don't quantify the way that we probably should. But apart from that, his big push is about living in a cleaner environment where we can be healthy, making our kids healthier. That's a fantastic aspiration. Now, obviously, how he's going to go about that, I'm sure that's where the rubber meets the road and what people's most concerned about. But I think that the beauty of our government and a lot of things, there's checks on power and everything else. I really think that I'm excited that there's so much publicity and word getting around the fact that we want to be healthier. Our kids are less healthy than what they should be. And we should be, pulling out all the stops to make sure that we secure a healthy present and a healthy future.
Couldn't agree more, Adam. Couldn't agree more.
What do you think, G-Dub? We've got to get rid of all these weapons of mass destruction.
That's right.
In our food and our water.
We are talking about the weapons of mass destruction.
Is that what we're talking?
Yes, we are. Land, air, and sea. And my boy KFC Jr. and I, back in college, old Kennedy Fried Chicken. That's what we call it, KFC. We do chicken right. Anyways, he and I, we took different paths, He was a political kid. Me too. PK, not a preacher's kid, political kid.
Yeah.
Anyways, I wanted to be on the ranch. He wanted to be up in the city. Anyways, old KFC's done a good job.
Yeah.
I mean, RFK. Real freaking cool. That's what that means. Real freaking cool. Anyways.
Appreciate you, G-Dub, for spotlighting in the podcast.
Thank you, Adam.
I want to know, every heart clear, anything else you want to share in there, Joe?
Oh, man.
I've had a good time with you, man.
I've had a great time again. I want to thank you for having me on.
Thanks for coming out
co-hosting this, baby.
For everybody listening, we get lengthy. I'll make sure going forward that I'm going to put in the description going forward for the rest of these, including this. It'll be there in this one. I'm going to try to document, I've noticed that other YouTube channel skits, they'll put in their time slots so what the topic that they're talking about. I'll try to link that and do that. So in case they want to skip through some of the nonsense banter and get really to the meat and potatoes when we're talking about a very specific study on atheromas in your carotid artery or cardiorespiratory fitness and its effects on your overall health and fitness.
Put a little spot where it says Joe's one-liner.
Joe's one-liner. Well,
I'm looking for Joe's one-liners right here.
I'm all for the unique things that make us and make this show the show. So the Joe one-liner, great. I love it.
1 minute and 43 seconds in, Joe one-liner. Is that what it would look like?
Yeah, so people can just skip over and see the Joe one-liner. I like it.
Oh, man. Well, thank you, Adam.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Until next time, signing off.
Signing off.
Continue to click the link below and subscribe to the Desolate Health Podcast. Thank you for listening.
Thanks.